Hello, my name is Brendan Johnston, and I'm a PhD candidate in English literature here at UNR. It's a great pleasure to be a part of this public domain concert series that's been sponsored by the College of Liberal Arts and the Knowledge Center. Today I'll be reading from two poems by Marianne Moore from her collection Observations, which was published in 1924 and is now, thankfully, a work of the public domain. I hope you enjoy them. Marianne Moore is still recognized as an influential poet from the vanguard, or first wave, of English language modernism. But today she is not read nearly so much as some of her modernist contemporaries are. This is unfortunate, for she definitely deserves to be. Her peers certainly read her a great deal, and even emulated her style, and poets like Wallace Stevens, Amy Lowell, and Hilda Doolittle were directly indebted to her influence. And she earned praise from people across the poetic landscape, from T.S. Eliot to William Carlos Williams, two poets often viewed on opposite ends of the spectrum of modernist poetry. A poet like Marianne Moore brought this high and low modernism together. In his autobiography, Williams describes the universal appeal she had to her peers. He said that she was, quote, the rafter holding up the superstructure of our uncompleted building, one of the main supports of the new order, in whom we all instinctively felt our purposes come together to form a stream. Everyone loved her, end quote. I think one of the central preoccupations of modernist art is the desire to create an order out of the great disorders of the early 20th century. It is a response to World War, rising technologies, and rapid cultural shifts. This was reflected in art and literature, but especially in poetry's new free verse. But perhaps what also separates modernist poetry from the later postmodern and contemporary was this residual concern with finding a nascent pattern out of this formlessness, building a new form out of this radical new freedom. This desire is quite apparent within the work of Marianne Moore, especially in Observations. For example, she preserves the poetic stanza, but moves away from traditional meter and end rhyme, though the rhyme is still preserved internally in each stanza. And though she moves away from a formal meter, like iambic pentameter, often her lines are kept to a predetermined number of syllables. She is often referenced as one of those difficult modernist poets, but it was never for the sake of difficulty itself. It was always to a purpose. Science, baseball, and economics could be the subject matter of Moore's lyric poems. This collection, Observations, actually won the Dial Award for Poetry in 1924, the only previous winner being T.S. Eliot. Today I'll be reading two short poems from the collection. The first poem, Poetry, is a kind of ars poetica, where she makes an argument for what she thinks should be or shouldn't be the subject matter and substance of poetry. Like many other poets from Edgar Allan Poe to Ben Lerner, she also makes a bit of a joke about the hatred or fear of poetry that often clouds its reception in the public sphere. And in the second poem, The Fish, this is an example of Moore's poetics in the field. It really is a masterpiece of first wave modernist form, even using the title as a portion of the poem. It is a poem that could as easily be considered experimental today as it was nearly 100 years ago. I encourage you to read the poems as I recite them. They are visual poems that are meant to be seen as much as they are also meant to be heard. T.S. Eliot called her the greatest living master of light rhyme. You will notice this seeing them on the page as I read. I hope you enjoy these exceptional examples of avant-garde American poetry. Poetry, 1924. I too dislike it. There are things that are important beyond all this fiddle. Reading it, however, with a perfect contempt for it, one discovers that there is in it, after all, a place for the genuine. Hands that can grasp, eyes that can dilate, hair that can rise if it must, these things are important, not because a high-sounding interpretation can be put upon them, but because they are useful. When they become so derivative as to become unintelligible, the same thing may be said for all of us, that we do not admire what we cannot understand. The bat, holding on upside down, or in a quest of something to eat, elephants pushing, a wild horse taking a roll, a tireless wolf under a tree, the immovable critic twitching his skin like a horse that feels a flea, the baseball fan, the statistician. Nor is it valid to discriminate against business documents and school books. All these phenomena are important. One must make a distinction, however. When dragged into prominence by half-poets, the result is not poetry, nor till the poets among us can be literalists of the imagination, above insolence and triviality, and can present for inspection imaginary gardens with real toads in them, shall we have it. In the meantime, if you demand, on the one hand, the raw material of poetry in all its rawness, and that which is, on the other hand, genuine, then you are interested in poetry. The fish. The fish wade through black jade. Of the crow-blue mussel shells, one keeps adjusting the ash heaps, opening and shutting itself like an injured fan. The barnacles, which encrust the side of the wave, cannot hide there, for the submerged shafts of the sun, split like spun glass, move themselves with spotlight swiftness into the crevices, in and out, illuminating the turquoise sea of bodies. The water drives a wedge of iron through the iron edge of the cliff, whereupon the stars, pink rice grains, ink-bespattered jellyfish, crabs like green lilies, and submarine toadstools slide each on the other. All external marks of abuse are present on this defiant edifice. All the physical features of accident, lack of cornice, dynamite grooves, burns and hatchet strokes, these things stand out on it. The chasm side is dead. Repeated evidence has proved that it can live on what cannot revive its youth. The sea grows old in it.